The impact shattered everything, the air, the silence, the fragile illusion of control I always clung to. It wasn't the sound of the shot that registered first, but the raw, brutal force of the slug tearing through my Kevlar, slamming into bone, stealing the breath right out of my lungs. 1 second, I was hunched over the terminal, fingers flying, the stolen data whispering its way across encrypted channels. The next, the world exploded into shrapnel and pain. They found us. Or rather, he found us. My comms unit crackled with static, the last gasping breath of a downed teammate. North side, flanked, Ryu. The name was a phantom, a whisper of a legend I prayed I'd never meet. Now he was here, a ghost with an army. My vision swam. The concrete pillar I'd taken cover behind was already spitting chunks. Each impact a frantic drumbeat against the hum of the transfer bar on my screen. 87%. Not enough. Never enough. Adrenaline, a searing fire, fought through the agony in my ribs. Get up. Move. Breathe. This wasn't just about the data. It was about her. The quiet promise I'd made, etched into my soul, that this would be the last one. The one that got us out. But out felt a million miles away, replaced by the choking dust and the rhythmic thud of heavy boots closing in. My side pulsed a hot, wet mess. I gripped my rifle, the cold steel a desperate anchor in the maelstrom. Every fiber screamed to run, to abandon the terminal, but the numbers on the screen were a sacred vow. 89%. The sound of the breach charge clicked, chillingly close on the other side of the pillar. This wasn't a fight. This was a grave, and I was standing in it. The world, once a quiet hum, shattered with a single vibrating pulse. Chloe's screen, a portal to another life, exploded with a frantic cascade of messages. Each word from Liam, her lover, her asset, screamed raw panic. Compromised. Extraction point is hot. They know. The brevity, the jumbled abbreviations, the typos, they weren't just texts. They were raw, unfiltered fear, flung across the digital divide. His words painted a vivid, horrifying picture. The unseen net tightening around him, the breath he couldn't quite catch. A faint, distant explosion rumbled, rattling the very air in Chloe's silent room, followed by the mournful wail of a siren, a phantom echo of the chaos blooming miles away. Her heart hammered against her ribs, not just with dread, but with a visceral understanding that the game had just changed. This wasn't a drill. This was the end, or the beginning of one. Her fingers, trembling, tried to claw back a response, to send a single word of hope or direction. But the signal flickered ominously, a digital heartbeat skipping crucial beats. Then, a new horror. Liam's fragmented audio message materialized, a jagged, corrupted waveform on her screen, a graphic representation of his unraveling world. Through the static, a horrifying cacophony ripped through the silence of her room. Shouts of unseen men, the sickening crash of glass shattering, the sharp, staccato crack of gunshots. And then, unmistakable, a choked cry, a sound ripped from the very depths of his being. The waveform flatlined for a terrifying second, then revived with his next, desperate text. Can't hold. Where are you? His plea, simple and agonizing, was a punch to her gut, a raw nerve exposed, demanding an answer she couldn't give. Just as Liam's raw plea burned into her consciousness, an icier, more insidious threat surfaced. A new contact, stark and anonymous, flashed across her screen. Command. The text, devoid of emotion, delivered a chilling directive that sliced through the frantic chaos like a surgeon's blade. Asset compromised. Mission critical. Do not engage. Priority. Containment. Her eyes, wide with Liam's terror, darted between his desperate words and the cold, unyielding pronouncements from above. Containment. The word echoed in her mind. A monstrous, bureaucratic euphemism for abandonment. In that instant, Chloe understood the trap, a meticulously laid snare, where Liam was not just the target, but the bait. This wasn't just about saving him, it was about sacrificing him, and she was being ordered to be complicit. A cold dread seeped into her bones, colder than any distant explosion. Liam's next messages were short, breathless gasps of text, painting a chaotic scene of survival. Blast. Lost them. For now. Firefight in the market. His words were a frantic pulse of adrenaline, the onomatopoeia conveying the sheer terror of his flight. Chloe imagined the vibrant chaos. Overturned stalls, scattering crowds, the acrid smell of gunpowder mingling with spices. He was a ghost, weaving through explosions and gunfire, every second a gamble. She fought to craft a response, her fingers hovering over the keypad, each keystroke a potential act of defiance or doom. How could she offer guidance without overtly betraying the cold directive from command? The clock was ticking, not in minutes, but in heartbeats, and Liam was out there, alone, running through fire, his life balanced on the razor's edge of her impossible decision. The chilling confirmation arrived, a digital whisper that amplified Chloe's burgeoning paranoia into a scream. They're inside. My comms? Compromised. Liam's text, stark and terrifying, confirmed her deepest fears. Their every move, every coded message, every desperate plea was being watched, listened to. They wasn't just the enemy on the ground. It was command. The puppet masters who had issued their cold directive, orchestrating Liam's demise from the shadows. The phone, once a lifeline, now felt like a leash, a tracking device in her own hand. The walls of her solitary room seemed to press in, the air thick with unspoken threats. Every reflection, every shadow felt like an unseen eye, observing, judging. The game wasn't just compromised. It was rigged, and she was just another piece on their board. Amidst the digital screams of war and betrayal, a message surfaced, a ghost from a life they'd once dared to dream of. Remember Florence? Our promise. A coded reference, intimate and raw, a reminder of sun-drenched streets, shared laughter, and a whispered promise of escape from this dangerous existence. Chloe clutched the phone to her chest, the sudden flood of bittersweet memory a sharp, painful contrast to the cold steel of her reality. For a fleeting moment, the screen's background seemed to soften, a blurry, warmer image of cobblestone streets and ancient architecture momentarily overlaying Liam's desperate plea. It was a lifeline to a past where they were just Liam and Chloe, not agent and handler. A promise of freedom, now dangling precariously, a stark reminder of everything they stood to lose. The chase was over, or so it seemed. Liam's next messages were terse, resigned, reporting a dead end. He was cornered, trapped in a disused warehouse. Metal, echoes. His words painted a grim, desolate picture of cold, industrial decay. His messages became more erratic, punctuated by static-filled images, corrupted files flashing on her screen. Glimpses of rusted girders, broken windows, dimly lit, cavernous spaces that swallowed hope. The sheer oppressive silence of his surroundings, broken only by the clang of unseen footsteps, seemed to seep through the screen. His final, desperate plea hung heavy in the air, a question that tore at her soul. What's the plan, Chloe? Give me something. He was waiting, vulnerable, and her silence was his death sentence. The walls were closing in, not just on Liam, but on her. The final blow arrived, not in a text, but in a chilling voice memo from command. As the waveform slowly materialized on her screen, a cold, disembodied voice spoke, devoid of empathy, dripping with calculated manipulation. Agent, your choices impact thousands. Let him go. It's for the greater good. The words were a lead weight, crushing her spirit. Her personal tragedy was being twisted into a global imperative. Liam's life reduced to a sacrificial pawn. Attached was a cryptic, terrifying file, hinting at a catastrophic event. Global disaster if she dared to interfere. The message wasn't just an order. It was an ultimatum, a moral guillotine. Her world, already shattered, collapsed completely. The impossible choice, laid bare and agonizing, demanded an answer. Her heart, once a beacon for Liam, now held the fate of thousands in its quivering grasp. The screen, still a battlefield of fractured pixels and garbled text, abruptly solidified around Liam's new message. A cold clarity pierced through the chaos. I have leverage. A data chip. They want it. The whole operation. Chloe's breath hitched, a fragile hope igniting in the pit of her stomach, only to be instantly choked by a new wave of fear. This wasn't a desperate plea. It was a desperate gamble. Liam, cornered and out of options, was offering a life raft, but one tethered to a ticking bomb. The chip wasn't just data. It was the raw nerve of an entire global network, a weapon. He was betting everything Chloe would understand the unspoken command. Retrieve it, protect it, and in doing so, protect him. The air in her sterile apartment seemed to thicken, heavy with the weight of this impossible demand. The faint, distant sounds of conflict from Liam's end intensified, a chilling drumbeat accompanying his perilous play. Then came the text that cut deeper than any gunshot. Chloe, do you trust me? After everything. The words hung in the digital space, not just a question but an accusation, a ghost from their shared, shadowed past. The implied betrayal vibrated between the lines, making Chloe's blood run cold. Trust? After everything? Her mind reeled, a torrent of suppressed memories threatening to break free. Her fingers froze over the keyboard, the weight of her response, or lack thereof, crushing her. She could almost feel the unseen eyes of command scrutinizing her every flicker of hesitation, her every nuanced breath. This wasn't just about the chip anymore. It was about the very foundation of their twisted bond, and the impossible choice of loyalty to a man who had already shattered her world once before, or obedience to the organization that owned her. A sudden notification, a visual shockwave. A faded, sepia-toned image of an old postcard, depicting the iconic Ponte Vecchio in Florence, bloomed on the screen. Below it, Liam's stark message. We both knew the risks, but this, the innocuous image, was a key, unlocking a vault of suppressed memory. Chloe gasped, a silent, guttural sound. Florence. Their secret rendezvous, a whispered promise beneath an ancient sky, a shared dream of escape that dissolved into a bitter, unspeakable betrayal. The image triggered a primal, visceral memory of a darker secret she had buried deep, a lie she had told herself to survive. The current danger, the chip, command, it all suddenly receded, overshadowed by the searing pain of that long-ago treachery, pulling her under a wave of doubt and guilt. The world outside her apartment faded, replaced by the ghost of a city and a broken promise. Midtext, as Chloe's fingers hovered, indecisive, over a reply, the screen violently flickered, then flared. Liam's messages vanished, replaced by an aggressive, blood-red pop-up. Urgent comms. A digital hammer had fallen. Command. Their omniscient, inescapable presence asserted itself with chilling efficiency. Her personal communication thread was brutally cut, overwritten by a cold, authoritarian directive. Abort all contact. Maintain containment protocol. Consequences for noncompliance are severe. The text was stark, uncompromising, a digital fist clenching around her throat. The faint gunshots from Liam's world were still there, a cruel counterpoint to the absolute silence of her own. Chloe felt a visceral surge of fear, but beneath it, a defiant spark. They had cut the line, but they hadn't cut the connection. Not yet. Just as the urgent comm screen began to recede, a glitch, a phantom signal, broke through command's iron grip. Liam's thread reappeared for a nanosecond, flashing with hastily drawn map coordinates, a rudimentary sketch of an escape route. Vent system, below storage, old tunnel. A raw, unadulterated jolt of hope surged through Chloe, electrifying her frozen limbs. Liam was fighting, still finding a way. The desperate scribble was a lifeline, a whisper of defiance against the overwhelming odds. It was a single, improbable thread in a tapestry of despair. But it was there. Her eyes devoured the crude map, tracing the lines of his impossible escape, a faint echo of Liam's ingenuity even in the face of imminent capture. The chaos on his end seemed to intensify, a chilling reminder of the shrinking window of opportunity, pushing Chloe toward a decision she was not ready to make. No sooner had Liam's fleeting message vanished than command reasserted its dominance. A torrent of classified documents, represented by rapidly scrolling text files, flooded Chloe's screen. Each file title screamed, "Confidential." The message was clear, chilling, and absolute. The target's data chip, if exposed, will destabilize 12 global economies. Millions suffer. The cold, calculated words were a heavy, suffocating blanket. This wasn't just about Liam anymore. It was about the crushing weight of global suffering, the greater good argument presented with brutal, irrefutable clarity. Command was showing her the scale of her impossible choice, stripping away the personal, leaving only the catastrophic implications. Her hand trembled, hovering over the screen, the lives of millions now balanced against the life of the man she loved, all orchestrated by the faceless entity that now held her destiny, and the world's in its cold, digital grip. The prolonged silence from Chloe's end, punctuated only by Command's chilling directives, must have been Liam's death knell. A final, heartbreaking message appeared, edged with profound resignation. "It's over, isn't it? Tell Florence I loved her." Each word was a punch to Chloe's gut, a final crushing blow. He was giving up. He believed she had made her choice, and it wasn't him. The muffled footsteps, growing louder, closer on his end, confirmed his terrifying reality. The sound was a visceral intrusion, dragging Chloe back from the abyss of guilt into the immediate, horrifying present. He was out of time. His farewell was not just a message. It was a plea for remembrance, a final echo of their shared past, a phantom hand reaching out before the darkness consumed him. The weight of his despair settled on Chloe like a shroud, forcing her hand. But surrender was not in Chloe's nature, not when Liam's life hung by a thread. The farewell, the muffled footsteps, they were the catalyst. Defying Command, defying her own suffocating fear, a fierce determination ignited in her eyes. Her fingers, no longer hesitant, flew across the touchscreen with a renewed, desperate resolve. Her reply, a coded tapestry of personal commitment and professional instruction, blazed onto the screen. "Florence awaits. Data secure.
Eta amabostgarren.
Tunnel Alpha." It was a lifeline, a promise whispered across the digital divide. She had made her choice, not for global economies, but for the man she loved, the man she couldn't let go. The countdown had begun, a high-stakes gamble against time, against Command, against the very forces that sought to erase Liam. Her heart hammered against her ribs, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, her fate now irrevocably entwined with his. The true mission had just begun. The world outside Chloe's phone shattered, replaced by Liam's frantic digital whispers, each word a bullet in her heart. He was a phantom now, a voice carried on a digital current, chased through the rafters. Down. They're everywhere. The sheer terror of his words was amplified by the implied symphony of chaos. The heavy, echoing thud of pursuit, metal groaning underfoot, and then the chilling staccato of rapid gunfire. Each clanging and thud painted a desperate scene of a man teetering on the precipice, navigating a labyrinth of steel and shadow. He was a rat in a cage, scrambling for purchase, for breath, for another precious second, while his enemies, unseen but ever-present, closed in. Her breath hitched with every phantom shot, knowing that somewhere, in the dark, Liam was running, bleeding, fighting, with only her to bear witness. Before the echoes of Liam's struggle could fade, a new horror erupted on the screen. Command. Their messages, once cold and procedural, now pulsed with a chilling, surgical rage. Rogue agent. Action compromised. You will be held accountable. Immediate disposition. The words weren't a warning. They were a death sentence, delivered with an icy precision that froze Chloe's blood. The screen transformed, a digital maelstrom of urgent red warning alerts, sharp lines, and the terrifying, geometric precision of a target-acquired icon materializing over her own location. The game had changed. Liam wasn't just compromised. He was disavowed. And Chloe, tethered to him by a thread of love and loyalty, was now collateral, marked for elimination. The hunter had become the hunted, and the prey's shadow had just fallen over her. Liam's messages, once a frantic torrent, now trickled in, short, clipped, like gasps for air. In the tunnel now, getting dark, hearing something. The words painted a terrifying picture. A descent into a suffocating void, the signal flickering like a dying pulse. The darkness wasn't just an absence of light. It was a hungry entity, consuming his words, his breath, his hope. Chloe, her own world collapsing, furiously typed back. A desperate litany of encouragement, commands, and unspoken pleas. Keep going. What do you hear? Are you clear? Each unanswered message was a pang of fear. Each delivered text a fragile lifeline she clung to. The silence from Liam's end stretched, an eternity of dread, amplifying the unseen something that stalked him through the echoing blackness. In a desperate, reckless gamble, Chloe's fingers flew across the keyboard, a surge of adrenaline overriding the paralyzing fear. She was improvising, crafting a lie, a digital smokescreen to buy Liam precious moments. Into commands now open, hostile thread. She injected the poison. ETA 5 minutes. Rendezvous point Alpha 7. West perimeter. The message, a beacon of false hope, was a direct challenge to the very entity that sought to destroy them. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a drumbeat of defiance and terror. Would they believe it? Would it draw their resources away, divert their wrath, even for a fleeting second? It was a throw of the dice, a last-ditch effort, with Liam's life, and now her own, hanging in the balance. The silence after she sent it was deafening, pregnant with the outcome of her desperate deception. A sudden, terrifying stillness. No texts. The digital silence was heavier than any gunfire. Chloe's fingers hesitated, trembling over the screen, unable to type, unable to move. Her eyes drifted, scrolling through the ghosts of their past conversations. A poignant montage of softer, warmer text bubbles and playful emojis. Liam's easy laugh, her fond replies, the innocent flirtations that had blossomed into something profound, something worth risking everything for. Did she push him too far? Was he ever truly safe? Or had she unwittingly sent him into the maw of this digital beast? The weight of what they shared, what she might have lost, settled heavy in her chest. Doubt, a creeping insidious cold, began to take root, threatening to consume her. Was this love or a catastrophic error? Then, a jolt. Liam's next message, stark and chilling. Behind me. Close. The words were not just text. They were a siren, screaming through the silence. The implied soundscape shifted dramatically, from distant echoes to the visceral immediacy of heavy footsteps thudding just meters away. The guttural shouts of his pursuers, once faint and indistinct, were now terrifyingly clear, their voices rough, menacing. Chloe's own heart hammered, a frantic drum against her ribs, mirroring Liam's desperate flight. She could almost feel the vibration of the impact, the near collision of bodies, the desperate struggle for survival. It was no longer a chase. It was a closing in. The hunter had the scent, and the prey was cornered, the distance between them shrinking with every agonizing second, pushing Liam to the edge of the abyss. Amidst the chaos, a stark, high-resolution image flashed on Chloe's screen. A data chip, pristine, sleek, and eerily detached from the carnage. It was held firmly in Liam's grimy, trembling hand, a testament to its value, his sacrifice. His accompanying message, a single, haunting question. This is it. Worth dying for? The simplicity of the question was devastating, cutting through the adrenaline and fear to the core of their mission, their shared life. This tiny piece of technology, so innocuous in its appearance, held the weight of worlds, the power to change everything, and the potential to cost him his life. Its crystalline clarity against the blurred, compromised backdrop of his struggle emphasized its ultimate importance, a silent, defiant challenge to the forces closing in, a final, desperate gamble for truth. The illusion shattered. Chloe's desperate gamble had failed, spectacularly and fatally. Command's messages flooded in, a torrent of digital fury, Each word a hammer blow, decoy identified. Your coordinates acquired. Termination protocol initiated. The cold, calculating precision of their response was terrifying. Her deception, meant to save Liam, had only led them straight to her, painting a target on her back. The screen flared with an ominous, red overlay, digital crosshairs settling precisely over her location. The world, her quiet apartment, the sanctuary she'd sought, was now compromised. The hunt was over for Liam, perhaps, but it had just begun for her. There was no escape, no hidden corner of the world where she could hide. Her life, once defined by secret missions and whispered plans, was now reduced to a digital coordinate, a target for elimination, a terrifying end to her desperate game. The world outside Chloe's phone had ceased to exist. Only the blazing screen mattered, a fragile window to a collapsing universe. Her fingers, slick with sweat, flew across the digital keyboard, each tap a hammer blow against her own heart. The truth, ugly and raw, spilled from her, a desperate torrent before the deluge. I knew. The setup. Florence, I was supposed to let you go. I couldn't. The words, once held captive by fear and duty, now screamed their freedom, a burning confession of betrayal interwoven with an impossible, all-consuming love. A tear, hot and heavy, splashed onto the glass, momentarily blurring the damning message, but nothing could blur the agonizing clarity of her choice. Time was a rapidly expiring breath, and this was her last gasp of honesty, a plea for understanding in the face of inevitable oblivion. Then a shock. Liam's reply, instantaneous, unbelievably calm, cut through the digital storm like a whisper in a hurricane. I know, Florence, I forgive you. The words were a bomb, a sword, a final absolution that both shattered and healed Chloe's ravaged soul. Attached was a rapidly degrading selfie, a ghost in the machine. Liam's face, bloodied and bruised, yet framed by a faint, sad smile. His eyes, though shadowed by pain, held a profound peace. In his raised hand, gleaming defiance, was the data chip, the world's most dangerous secret, now free. As the image pixelated into a digital scream, a new, spiderweb crack exploded across Chloe's screen, mirroring the irreparable fracture in her own reality. The light from his fading image, a cruel irony, was the brightest thing in her darkening world. Liam's next message seared itself onto Chloe's fractured screen, a chilling epitaph. It's out. The chip. See you, Chloe. His final, defiant act. And then the world erupted. Not with an explosion in the room, but a digital apocalypse. Her screen became a maelstrom of simulated news alerts, a relentless barrage of flashing website tabs, global data breach, financial markets crash, government secrets exposed. The data chip, the weight of nations, had been unleashed. The abstract threat was now a screaming, tangible reality, a domino effect of chaos cascading across continents. Liam hadn't just died, he had detonated, and Chloe was left to witness the fallout. His final legacy, a world set ablaze, echoing the inferno in her own heart. The world narrowed to a single, final message from Liam. Love you. 3 words. A lifetime of unspoken promises, delivered just as the hammer fell. Then, an instant later, an impossible, blinding flash of pure white light erupted from the screen, searing Chloe's retinas, threatening to consume everything. An ear-splitting explosion, more felt than heard, ripped through the silent room, vibrating through her bones, shaking the phone violently in her grasp. The delicate glass of the screen groaned, new fissures blooming across its surface, an impossible, physical manifestation of the cataclysm. And then, as abruptly as it began, it ceased. The blinding light vanished, the deafening roar died, replaced by a stark, final declaration on the dark, shattered screen, offline. The silence that followed was a crushing, absolute void, the sound of a world ending. The light died, leaving only the dark, shattered screen and the stark white letters, offline, a cruel digital tombstone. No new messages, no frantic updates, just the devastating, suffocating silence. Below Liam's last, heart-wrenching message, "Love you," the small, read receipt glowed, an unbearable echo of connection, a phantom limb of communication. The spiderweb of cracks across the glass seemed to pulsate with residual pain, reflecting nothing but the encroaching despair. In that profound, unbearable silence, the only sound amplified was Chloe's own ragged, choked breathing, a desperate, animal gasp for air in a world that had just ceased to turn. Every inhale was a struggle, every exhale a sob, lost in the echoing void. The screen, a dark mirror of Chloe's grief, violently flickered, then rebooted with a harsh, digital shriek, bypassing the offline status with chilling efficiency. The sudden invasion, brutal and clinical, ripped her from her despair. A new profile appeared, stark and uncompromising. Command. The message was a cold, digital death sentence. Subject, Chloe. Status, rogue. Location, acquired. Intercept team en route. Below it, a digital timer materialized, stark white digits against a black background, counting down relentlessly from 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes until command, the very entity she served, the very force that had sent Liam to his doom, arrived to claim her. No time for grief, no time for processing. Only a stark, immediate threat. The hunter had become the hunted. Amidst the terror, a flicker of memory, a desperate, subconscious whisper. Liam's meticulousness, his foresight, Chloe's trembling finger, guided by a phantom touch, navigated back to Liam's very first, garbled message. There, almost invisible, was a small, encrypted file icon. With a surge of desperate hope, she tapped it. The screen transitioned to a brief, time-stamped video, a digital echo from a world that was no more. Liam's face, bloodied but defiant, filled the frame. A faint, knowing smile played on his lips as he looked directly into the camera. His voice clear, calm, prophetic. "I always knew you'd save me. And you will save yourself too." A final, impossible gift. A message of love, trust, and a chilling, urgent call to action, delivered from beyond the grave. The prophecy hung in the air, a burden and a promise. Chloe's fingers, no longer trembling with grief or fear, moved with grim purpose. Her eyes, still brimming, now held a cold, unwavering resolve. She deleted Command's contacts first, severing the digital tether to her past life, to the entity that had betrayed them both. Then, with a wrenching click, she selected Liam's entire message history. Each line of text, each shared secret, each digital ghost of their love, vanished into the void. The screen emptied, erasing their story, leaving no trace. A digital self-immolation. The timer in the corner ticked down relentlessly. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. 2 minutes and 46 seconds. 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Her past was gone, her future uncertain, but her purpose was brutally clear. Become a ghost, impossible to track, impossible to catch. Survival, not revenge, was the mission. The screen, a beacon of shattered hope, now flickering with a stark, new terror. Incoming call. Unknown number. Not Command. Not the secure line she'd been drilled to expect. Who then? A splinter faction? A rogue operator? Or something far more insidious? Another trap closing in on the chaos Liam had unleashed? Every instinct screamed anomaly. A fraction of a second, an eternity suspended in the digital ether. Her finger hovered, a millimeter from the glowing green icon, the weight of the world pressing down on that one tiny gesture. The faint echoes of distant gunfire still haunted the periphery of her hearing, a ghost of Liam's frantic last stand. This call, this unsolicited lifeline from the dark, demanded an answer. A gamble, a desperate, blind leap into the abyss. Chloe's reflection stared back, eyes wide, jaw set. She took a deep, fortifying breath, the very air a steel band around her chest, and plunged. The screen went blank, the connection made, yet the silence on the other end was deafening. The line was open, a silent pact, forged in the crucible of impossible choices. No words, no explanation, just the hum of a connection across an unknown chasm. But Chloe knew. She didn't need a voice to understand the unspoken contract. Her gaze, still etched with the ghost of Liam's final pleas, hardened into something unyielding, something dangerous. The timer, a merciless digital countdown, pulsed ominously in the corner of her vision, a stark reminder of how little time remained. Every second was a hammer blow, driving her towards an irreversible precipice. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, a furious, silent torrent of will. Not a question, not a plea, but a declaration. A single word, sharp as a blade, heavy as fate, echoing her defiance into the void. A promise to this silent, unseen ally. Ready. She pressed send with a finality that shook her to her core, just as the digital clock fractured into a zero, the world tilting on its axis. The final shot echoed, not with triumph, but with hollow finality. The silence that followed was heavy, a suffocating blanket of dust and spent casings. Ryu lay still, his eyes wide, reflecting the flickering emergency lights that barely cut through the gloom. No grand villain monologue, no last-minute twist. Just the brutal, absolute end of a chapter written in blood. The terminal screen finally went dark, its mission complete, the data secure, a victory so profoundly personal it felt like a defeat. I slumped against the same scarred pillar that had shielded me. The pain in my ribs a dull, constant throb, now joined by an ache far deeper. The last one, I whispered, the words catching in my raw throat. The promise made, the price paid. My hand, trembling, found the locket beneath my shirt. The cool metal a stark contrast to the burning phantom limb of my lost future. She wasn't here. She wouldn't be here. The choice had been made minutes ago, in a hail of fire and desperation. Her life or mine and the mission. I'd chosen the mission for her, and in doing so I'd lost her anyway. A siren wailed in the distance, a reminder that the world beyond this ruin still turned. But for me it had stopped, the adrenaline drained, leaving only exhaustion, grief, and the chilling realization that some battles, even when won, leave you with nothing but ghosts. This wasn't an escape. It was a new kind of prison, forged from sacrifice. I pushed myself up, each movement a testament to survival, and began to walk towards the distant sound, towards a future I no longer recognized.